Is my volume okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Great, great.
You were mentioning your dad's good friends with uh Bradley coach. Bisher hated him. What was his name again?
Dick Versace?
Dick Versace. Bisher did not like him. Bisher tried to get that job at the same time they hired Versace.
I could see that, but if I remember Versace's first year, Chuck Busher was his assistant. That had to have been
Correct.
the 78, 79 year, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Bisher
Okay,
applied for it.
we are live. Okay, 1 second here. All right. Welcome to celebrating Greater Peoria area's rich basketball history. Youngsters these days, they need to do their homework. Well, here's another lesson. I've got a Peoria coaching legend right here. I got Bob Darling. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing fine. I don't know about the legend part, but I'm happy to join you, and I'm doing real well. Thank you.
Well, when a lot of people know you, I think you become legendary.
Well, it's some people like it, some people don't, but thank you for the compliment.
Oh man, well, you got props from old CBJ. That's for doggone sure.
Well, thank
And
you.
that's why I wanted to have you on. I was in town, I want to say a little over 3 weeks ago, and many people have seen the show and other people I had on. And I had several people suggest that I should have you on the show. And that's why I reached out to you. So thank you for agreeing to come on.
My pleasure. Trust me. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we got to go back. You got to take us back to growing up in Peoria, and who put the ball in your crib? Who gave you the love for the game that you are associated with?
Well, this name most people won't know, but his name was Billy Riley. He was. I lived down on the south end near Zoll's, near Ernie's Dairy Dream. Matter of fact, that was my first job as a kid. Uh, but St. Boniface was right up the alley from my house, and we always played basketball at the playground there at St. Boniface. And guys like George Codwell, who played on Manual's 72 team, and DC Purfoy that went to Woodruff, and Bingo Lilly, and those guys, and the Crawfords. A lot of us played there, and but the biggest influence was Billy Riley. He was about he was probably he was probably like a senior when I was in 8th grade, but we were always on the playground, and he was always helping me become a better player.
What grade school did you attend?
I attended Christ Lutheran. I think, yeah, Christ Lutheran back in like 1972 or something like that. Yeah, Christ Lutheran. I know
Okay.
they're a powerhouse now, but back in the day, we are okay. We won the tournament.
Okay. Well, who was some of the well, who actually got you involved in the game? Was there somebody in your family that played as well
No, not
as a
really.
gentleman?
I had 3 older sisters and an older brother. But it was just I hung around these guys that we played a lot of sports. If it's football season, we played football. If the Olympics were on, we were trying to do pole vaulting, and things like that, high jumping. Of course, I wasn't very good at that part, but we just always were just a bunch of athletes in the neighborhood, and then of course that I went to Manual, and was influenced by Coach Van, of course, and I was fortunate enough that I got to practice against Wayne McLean and Mike Humbles and Bobby Humbles, the guards from Manual, every night. I didn't dress varsity as a freshman, but I had to go against Wayne and Mike Humbles every night. And trust me, I grew up real fast trying to guard those guys and them guarding me.
So you got to see that great 72 team with Paul Maris and of course the Humbles brothers, Wayne McLean, Big Mike Davis. You got to see them firsthand, huh?
Yeah, I did. You know that, and the Big Mike took a liking to me, so then I didn't have to worry about people picking on me. But yeah, they just treated me like a little brother, and you know they'd razz me and stuff, but it helped me become a better player, and they were such a really good team, and Wayne was such a good leader of that basketball team, and you know, I got many stories about Wayne, but he had a huge influence also on me becoming a basketball coach.
Okay. So you're playing for Coach Van Syk in the very tough Mid-State 9 conference. Can you tell us some of the great players that you faced in the Mid-State 9?
Oh yeah, well, you know, I guess I'll start with Central. Central had Al Hightower and she's Larry Donaldson, and then eventually Ernie Banks and Danny Ruffin, and they were really good. And at the same time, um, Richwoods was coming into their own. They had Shug Williams, Mark Smith, uh, Neely Hill, which a lot of people don't know who Neely Hill is, but he was a great player as a junior. He would have been eligible to play now, but back in those days, if you turned 19 before or during the season, you couldn't play. But he would have been eligible. But anyway, he was a very good player. And then Holcomb, Mark Smith, Westerveld, that team they had. But uh, Shug Williams was a special player, and he could light it up. He to me he should have been Sleepy Williams, because he reminds you of Sleepy Floyd a little bit. You know, before you know it, he's got 30, and you can't even really tell he's got 30 points. But he was a really good player. And let's see, even you know, back in the day, Limestone was really good. East Peoria was good. You know, back in the day, Spalding was always competitive. Matter of fact, right before, when I was in eighth grade, Spalding went to the state tournament, got third. So there were a lot of good teams, and that was right before we joined with the Springfield schools.
Okay. So your senior year, which was the 74-75 season, the best team in the conference was Richwoods. They went undefeated. Shug Williams was a senior, averaged 24 points a game, and they went downstate and with only one loss. Their only loss was in the Pekin Holiday Tournament to Thornton, and they went downstate with only one loss. And in the semifinals, Derek Holcomb uh, blew his knee. I think, from what I heard, his knee got bent back 90
Yeah,
degrees.
I can still see it. I saw it on television. I can still see it. Hyperextended it. Yeah. And he was done, of course, after that. Yeah.
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 And
They were really good. They would have had a good chance when, you know, they were 6'11", 6'10". Suge was 6'5", 6'6". Westervelt was 6'1". Holstad or Crick, I can't remember the other guard. He was like 6'1". They were just huge for a high school team, you know. And here were, you know, I was lucky enough to play Bobby Humbles. To me, Bobby Humbles was one of the greatest players Peoria ever had, and but he was 6'1". He was our tallest player, and
wow.
you know we didn't get many rebounds. We just didn't. If we missed, they had it, and when they missed, they just put it back up. It
Right.
was tough competing against those guys.
Well, you get recruited by Lincoln College, which is at that time a powerhouse, a national powerhouse. Who was the coach at Lincoln College that recruited you?
Well, it's funny. I wasn't recruited.
Wow.
I just decided that I wanted to go to college, and Jim Bixby, he's a counselor at Manual. You know, he said, you know, you want to play a couple more years of basketball. I said, of course I do, you know, because I didn't intend on going to college. And so I just kind of went in as a walk on. And, you know, I was lucky enough that I played at a style that Coach Van had in Peoria, where it was very physical. We were used to being playing fast, and it just turned out that eventually I just worked my way up, and by the end of my freshman, by halfway through the freshman season, I was starting. So very happy with that. Yeah.
Okay.
We had a very good team. Just a little history. You and I talked about Laird Smith. Larry Smith, who played at Morgan Park, he's the one that actually hit the jump shot to win it for Morgan Park. The year Levi Cobb and Levi Cobb, I think he was a year behind Levi Cobb. But Levi Cobb, of course, went to Illinois, was a great player there.
Hmm.
But I can still see him. It was a jump ball. He tips it to Larry. Larry makes a shot. Boom.
The
And
shot heard around the state, they
Yeah,
called it.
definitely.
Yeah.
It was a great shot. I was fortunate. Frankie and the two guys I played with at Manual, Frankie Welch and Bobby Humbles, two underrated players. Frankie ended up going to Lincoln also, and one night he had 53 points in one game, so he was lighting it up. So we had a very good team. We got beat in the semis by a kid of a 6, 7 footer that would end up going to Indiana State. I can't think of his name, but we had a really good squad at Lincoln. I really enjoyed going to Lincoln.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned Frankie Welch because um, foolishly, I did a top 100 uh, Greater Peoria area basketball players, and it ended up turning into top 200 because there was a lot of damn people mad that I left off the list. I was doing my best, and I tried to be nice. Say, hey, if you know somebody that I've left off, let me know. They crucified me. And one of the guys they got on my case about was Frankie Welch. And to your point, you say he was underrated. I really didn't know a lot about him, but people hit me about him. They told me uh, how great of a player he was, that he was almost ambidextrous, or if not ambidextrous. Is
He
that
was pretty
correct?
good at. He was pretty good both hands. He could really shoot the jump shot with his right hand. But Frankie, he really took off in junior college. Sometimes as young men, the game slows down after you get out of high school. And I think for Frank, the game slowed down, and because he wasn't recruited either at Lincoln, and we both just walked on. And
Hmm.
once we got to college, Frankie, he really took off in terms of being able to put the ball in the basket. He was a very good player. So I can see your point about high school. We lost a lot. I'm going to tell you the truth. In high school, we lost a lot, and so it's easy to overlook guys that don't get a lot of W's on their side.
I hear you. Well, what happened after you left Lincoln College? Did you go on and play at a 4 year?
I tried to walk on at Northern, and basically I got called to the side. And they told me I was wasting my time,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and I thought I could play, um, but I didn't think I got a shot. I would have liked to have said, "Hey, give me a month, let me show you." But the cards weren't in my favor. I had a bad hand, so I ended up coming home. I transferred to Bradley, and I just finished my education there at Bradley, and I started coaching the middle school as I was a student at Bradley. And eventually, after I graduated, I ended up my first year of teaching was at White School, and then I was transferred to Harrison. And then after my second year at Harrison, Chuck Bisher offered me an assistant coaching job at Peoria High, and I spent 9 years with Chuck. Uh,
Wow.
and then I got an opportunity to coach in Decatur, Decatur MacArthur High School as a head coach. I spent 3 years down there, had some really good players. It was tough leaving, but Peoria was home, and I had an opportunity to come home and coach at Richwoods and coach against the Bishers and the McLeans and the Wessendorfs. So, so I decided the best thing for me was to come home, and I took lucky enough, I got the Richwoods job.
Well, let me back up just a little bit before we get in to Rich Woods.
Sure, sure.
Um, when you were in grade school, what was that experience like coaching in District
Oh,
150?
well, I hope I don't talk too long on this topic, but some people say I'm going to lead into this. Hopefully, you got a couple minutes. Some people
We're
ask,
good. We're good.
some people ask, well, what's the difference now, and why aren't the kids as motivated, and um, what's the difference between the old days and nowadays? And of course, we in the old days, we think we did it right, and so forth and so on. Everyone
Mhm.
understands that, but I was telling you, but I've told many people, back in the day when I was coaching middle school basketball at Harrison, um, these are the other guys that were coaching in the middle schools. Danny Ruffin was at Tree Wind. Wayne McLean was at Blaine Sumner. Jerry Stoll was at Greeley. Randy Simmons was at Kingman. Mike Plunkett was either at Sterling or Von Steuben. I can't remember. Um, and there's two or three other. Oh, Westendorf was at Roosevelt, and there were guys like the Persich brothers. Everybody that was in the middle schools, they were basketball junkies. I mean, we were all in for the games, and
Right.
Tuesday morning you get the results. Because back in those days you didn't have. You didn't have Facebook and things like that, and you looked at those ratings and you looked at the rankings, but it was very, very competitive, and I don't think now that the middle schools are getting that same type of leadership in terms of passion for the game in their coaches.
Hmm.
Not I hope not to sound sexist, but I don't think there's a lot of men that are going into education and then going into the coaching part of it. So I think that's really hurting the kids in the middle schools, and I don't think they're getting that passion for sports like it might have been 20, 30 years ago.
Okay. Wow. That's quite a lineup of coaches that were coaching grade
Yeah.
school ball back in the day. Those are legendary Peoria names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. That is a lot of you think about it. I know at least five or six of those guys. We end up going and being head basketball coaches or baseball coaches or
Hmm.
football coaches. And of course, Wayne McLean, he became legendary. And he kind of set the bar high for the rest of us. He got to high school, and the minute he got to high school, I was like, man, I hope I get to go to high school. And a couple years later, I got the job at Central. So I was really
Tell me,
influenced by Wayne.
tell me about your job at Central. I didn't know that you were there that many years. Nine
Yeah,
years.
well, uh, Coach Brooks, Coach Eddie Brooks, he was at Manual, and he got the head coaching job at Woodruff, and he was going to he's going to hire two or three new guys, and Bisher had just released one of his assistants, and since Brooks was leaving Manual, there was a job opening up at Manual also. Well, I got a call from Chuck Bishop, said, "Are you interested in coaching high school?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely." So I met with him and met with the principal. Then I accepted the job, and then that's when I found out Coach Brooks was leaving. So I was like, "Well, I can't go to Manual." So I've already taken a job with Central. So yeah, I was very fortunate that Chuck Bishop had. I think he saw something in me. I hope, and then I think I was pretty decent with the kids as an assistant coach, and yeah, it was very exciting. Very, very happy. I learned a lot about basketball. I tell this story to a lot of people that I played for Coach Van, and I got tons of stories about Coach Van. But I played for Coach Van, and I worked for Coach Bishop. And Coach Van taught me the game of basketball. He teaches you every position, every detail about playing the post, guard the post, playing the wing, guarding the wing, running the point, not and defending the point. He just taught you so much about the game. And then I went to Central, and it started to click some because then Bishop taught me how to coach the game. What am I looking for? Running a program. What are we doing at the freshman level that's going to do what we're doing at the sophomore level than what we're going to do at the varsity level, and building a program and establishing a program. And even like great coaches have systems. Leggett from Quincy, Alexander from Lincoln. You know, they have a system, and you're going to have to beat them at their system. And that was one thing. A couple things I learned, of course. But Bitcher had a system, and we ran that system from the freshman level on, and he was pretty successful.
And you were there for that 88, 89 season and had a front row seat into
Yeah.
what many feel in a game that many feel was the greatest championship game ever in IHSA history, the 3 overtime game against East St. Louis Lincoln. What is your recollection of that season and that great team and some great players?
Well, the recollection, first of all, I got to give you a quick story about Rock Island. Um, Rock Island, you can get homered a little bit of Rock Island. And we're up 8. This is a true story. We're up 8 with 26 seconds to go, and we got the ball. Game goes into overtime.
Seriously?
26 seconds. Yes, game goes into overtime. We get
Did they
called
have
for
Reggie Miller?
well, we got called for traveling, a phantom traveling, and all a charge, maybe a block. I don't know, but all of a sudden, but anyway, that I remember that night. It was so challenging for those guys. They just hung in there. They got it done, and eventually we won that game. Uh, but and then I'll say the manual team. I think Howard Nathan was a sophomore when Chris was on that when we were seniors, when they were seniors, and we beat Manual in overtime. And I think Reynolds, if I remember right, Reynolds did foul out, but Mike Hughes put the team on his back in that overtime, and he just made big shot after big shot. And then we go to state tournament, play Brandon Lee from Bloom. It was a really good player in the first game. I can't recall who played the second game, but East St. Louis in the championship. And they had Conzo Martin, Vinny, I can't remember Vinny's last
Vincent
name.
Jackson?
Vincent Jackson, Vinny Jackson. Um, they were good. Um, I think we might have been a little tight, but they were good, you know, and we played, you know, close to the vest a little bit sometimes, and running maybe a little bit of 4 corners. And Chris gets a technical. He misses a layup, and he says some profanity, and not at the official. He's upset with himself. He gets called a T late in the game, and that hurt us. But then that was in one of the overtimes, I think. I can
Mhm.
remember Tyrone Howard having a great shot in the first overtime, a 10-footer, and he misses it. And then the second overtime, Mike Hughes hits a long rebound to him. He knocks a shot in a corner that puts it into the third overtime. And then in the third overtime, I think we got like 2 guys on Vinny Jackson. He just drains one from the top of the key.
Yeah.
And that team from Peoria High, that team, they they were devastated. They never in their wildest dreams. I have another story to tell you. Never in their wildest dreams did they think they would lose that game. Never did they believe that. And
Undefeated. Yeah.
one other thing, I'll tell you a story about that is I the all the players are in my van as we're going for the championship game. And Mike Kurtzy is a sophomore. He's a pretty good damn player. Mike Kurtzy, he's a stud. If he had better grades, he probably would have went to Purdue. But he's a sophomore, and he's starting. And the only reason he's starting because Carty Saison had broken his hand. He was back, but Bishop was not going to he was not going to change the starting lineup. Kind
Right.
of a little superstition. But I remember Charles White saying to Mike Kurtzy as we're getting out of the van, he says, if you ain't playing tonight, stay on the van. I mean, it was just how they were focused. They were, you know, this is it. You know, he was trying to
Mhm.
tell this little sophomore, this is it. You got to step up. Uh, but that was a hell of a squad.
Wow. So you, after that year, you left and went to Decatur, had a couple of good years.
Not after that year. I was still there probably to 97, I think, 96.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I was there uh for some other good, really good players. Mike Curtsey was a good player, and Lamont Thomas, Marcus Albert. Later on, Bo Smith. I lucky enough, I'm still very close to Bo Smith. Very good player. And then I got an opportunity to go to Decatur. And I had some very good players down there. Had a kid that went to Marquette, John Cliff. 3 or 4 Division I players. One went out to Northeastern and played for Rudy. Uh, yeah, I
Rudy
was
Keeling.
fortunate. Yeah, Rudy
Okay.
Keeling. Yep.
So the Richwoods job opens up with legendary. I like to call him that, but he is that. Wayne Hamilton
Yeah.
retires, and you step right in at Richwoods, and now uh, you're back. You're back home and uh, in the Mid-State Conference again. And tell us about that experience. Now you got to go up against your alma mater in Manual, and you got to go up against Central, where you spent 9 years.
Yeah, that was yeah. My first year there, we had a decent team. I think we won 15 games. I had Calvin O'Neill and Najian Grant and a couple of good players, Charlie Kellogg. Uh, but Manuel had the squad. They won the state that year. Of course, I think that was the 4th year that they won it. Uh, so it was very it was challenging, and but we had some kids coming. We knew we had a great freshman, incoming freshman class, and I had a really good freshman guard uh, in Jeff Richard, and the future looked pretty good for us. And so we played those young kids. The next year, I think we only won like 10 games, but we took our lumps, and then we got better. And then the following year, Central had the really good team. They had Terrence Howard, they had McKissick, Wooten, some other kids, and they were ranked second in the state. Of course, that's back when there was only 2 classes,
Mm-hmm.
and we upset them at the field house, and which was bittersweet, of course, for us. It's great, We I think it tells people that uh, you're going to have to deal with this. It's not like we're taking anybody's place, but you're going to have to deal with this, which was good. Uh, but on the other hand, I have a special feeling in my heart for Central, even though Chuck and I we had some great battles. And then eventually Somerville gets to Central. And I think the next 2 years, we still won the sectional titles. We had good players, and,
So
they made me
what was it
look pretty
like
good.
beating Busher? I mean, you coached underneath them, and uh, almost like the pupil or the student beats the teacher.
Yeah,
And
well,
your relationship, did it change?
Well, coach, as you know, and as most people know, coaches have egos. They really
Right on.
do, and and when I'm getting beat, I'm not much fun to be around, and it's the same thing with Chuck or Wayne or whoever. And when we started having some success, it definitely had uh, an effect on our relationship. And then when kids end up maybe going to Richwoods instead of going to Central, then all of a sudden, the rumors out there that you're recruiting. Well,
Right.
uh, and I didn't recruit anybody. I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't. Jamar Smith didn't recruit him. Sean Livingston didn't recruit him. They knocked on our door. They were there, and they're enrolled at Richwoods. And if they're enrolled in Richwoods, they're going to be our players. So that probably had a little bit of effect on it also. But Chuck and I have a lot of respect for him. We text each other now and then. We always say we're getting together for lunch, but we haven't been able to with COVID, of course. Uh, but yeah, that there was a few years where, let's just say, I didn't get a Christmas card, and neither did he. So
I understand. Well, in just 3 short years, that 2000 season, you guys went 26-7, and as you said, Central beat you guys twice during the regular season, and then you got them in the sectional, third time the charm. And then some of the great players you had on that team: Steve Turner Jr., uh, Tony Gully Jr. I played against both their dads in high school. John Little, Marcus Jackson, Jeff Richard, Ben Silver. Um, this is a pretty good squad, and you guys make it to state. And let's see, you guys knock off Central 68-60. After losing twice, you knock off Central 68-60. Then you got rid of Quincy 46-43. And then at state, you got Rock Island by 4. And in the semifinal, Westinghouse got on top of you guys early, and you guys couldn't catch up, losing by 8. But then in the consolation game, the third place game, you did something that was unprecedented in a sense, that you gave, you rewarded your seniors that don't get to play very much some playing time, and it touched the hearts of a lot of people. So tell us about that ride up until that point.
okay, that senior class, they were a special group. They really were. Typically, um, in Peoria basketball, as you go up in years, if you're not going to play, you're probably not going to be on the team. One, because it's so hard to work, and two, there's a kid that's a sophomore or a junior that's just better than you. But these
Mm-hmm.
kids, they were a special group, and they actually could play too. They were decent players. But John Little came on as a sophomore, and he very young, but he was uh, could make big shots even as a sophomore. He's the one that beat Quincy with a shot. It was went to the mid dotted line, boom, we beat him by 2.
Mm-hmm.
But that group was special, and I felt bad for them in one regard because they were such good kids, the seniors. But Tony Gully was coming, Stevie Turner was coming, John Little was coming, and they were, I hate to say it like this, but they were just better players than the guys that were seniors.
Right.
And that night when I was still remember, I'm talking to Mike Ellis, who's now up at Evanston, and Westinghouse. It's apparent we're going to lose to Westinghouse, and I said it right then. I said, we're playing the seniors tonight. I said, just we're going to let them play. You know what? We're just going to let them play. And Robbie Boaz, Brian Fuller, those guards especially, to see them play and get an opportunity, because like I said, they were players, and to see their parents and the Richwoods family, just so excited when Robbie would knock in a 3 or Brian make a shot. That was it was well worth it, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I didn't know it was going to be such a big deal when I did it. I really didn't. I said, we deserve to give these kids this
Right.
opportunity, and I didn't care whether it was a third or fourth place game. Uh, you know, it's like the NCAA. If you're not playing for the championship, I'm glad they don't have a third and fourth place game. But it was something we just felt that those kids, they deserved it, and we wanted them to play, and we wanted the 2 or 3 thousand Richwoods faculty and fans and family to enjoy those kids one last time.
That's cool. Did you catch some heat?
I did not.
Wow.
I didn't. To my knowledge, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are very critical of you, but they don't always come back to you. or they hide behind some name on some blog or something. But no, I really didn't get any heat about that in regard to that. It just, and I wouldn't have cared anyway because uh, it was the right thing to do for those senior guys.
Right. Okay. Well, into the 2001 season, you got a great nucleus coming back. Marcus Jackson, Steve Turner, Robert Faulkner, John Little, and John Young. Tony Gully Jr. Left and went to Manual. And you guys only had one conference loss, and that was an overtime loss to your alma mater, Manual, 67-62. But you beat Central twice that year,
Yeah.
and got them again in the sectional, 44-38. And you guys um, get through the super sectional and go to state again. But you ran into big All-American Eddie Curry, 7-footer, and you guys finished at 28-4.
We thought we were going to win that. Curly, we thought we were going to win that year. We really did. But we picked a bad not to make a shot. They had a very aggressive zone, but they played a zone, and we just didn't knock it in. And we just, and when you're in a tournament, you got to make shots. You just can't have stretches, and our percentage was so bad that night. And of course, we couldn't stop Curry. But Marcus Jackson's pretty damn good at defender. But yeah, yeah, that was a tough one. We thought we were going to win. Yes, it was very rewarding to beat Central in the sectional final. We really thought, of course, we thought if we could beat Central, we got a good chance to go to state because we thought we could win the super sectional, which was still tough. It was a very good Mount Zion team, but yeah, that was a very good team, and I think Sean Livingston was a freshman that year. And he probably weighed 105 pounds at 6'6", and that was if he was soaking wet. He was a little skinny kid at that, a big skinny kid at that time. But yeah, that was a very good squad. Robert Faulkner, player, Johnny Young, just a warrior, beat you up. As soon as you get between those lines, he's going to beat you up. You're going to feel it being in the game with Johnny Young. And we had a kid named Martell Webster, who's a great defensive point guard for us. And he can pretty much shut down most other guards.
Well, wow, you beat Central four straight. And when you're going into the next season, I believe, is that when Sean Livingston transferred over to Central?
No, he stayed for his sophomore year. We had a very good season. We actually beat Ugadawa and McBride on that Lanford team. They only had 2 losses that year. They lost to us and they lost to I think Westinghouse in the championship game. But we did beat them in a shootout down in Springfield. We had a very good squad. We get to the sectionals over in Pekin, and Limestone had a very good team. De'Aaron Williams, I think his name was.
Mm-hmm.
They had a good team. They played a matchup zone. We didn't shoot it well enough, and I think they beat us by 2. And then they end up getting beat by Pekin. But Pekin was very good also. So yeah, that was a very good team. We were ranked in the top 10 all year long, but Limestone upset us that year. Yeah.
That's an incredible 3-year run. And, when Livingston leaving, what was the fracture in the relationship? Was there any outside factors that came into play there?
Well, you and I talked briefly. I
We did.
wanted to, well, I wish Sean was here to have his input. Maybe someday he will be here. But Sean, when he was at Richwoods, he was, I think he had walking pneumonia. He had broken his wrist once, had a bad sprained ankle. Uh, and it was pretty tough his first couple years growing into a basketball program, I think.
Mhm.
But hey, look, him transferring to Central was the best thing for him. It really was. He got two
Wow.
state championships. He got drafted, I think, fourth overall. So it's hard to argue with that success that it wasn't the right thing for the Livingston family to do, and him transfer to Central. Now, maybe I didn't wish it was Central. I will say that, but obviously it was the right thing for the Livingston family and Sean. And the big thing I'll say also in that situation is uh, Sean's grandfather very influential on Sean. And I think Sean had an opportunity to go back to Grandpa's house, and I think that gave him some more stability there. But that's something Sean would have to address, of course.
Well, I wish he could come on. If you're out there, Sean Livingston,
That'd be
love to
great.
have you on.
Yeah, we'd love
So
to have you on. Have nothing
yeah,
but respect for Sean. Nothing but respect.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, um, what was your at that time when you lose a player of that magnitude? And I think a year later you lost 6'8" boy, 6'7" boy,
Yeah,
Warfield, and
Warfield.
you start to see that players are leaving the program for whatever reason. Um, what was it like? Because I do know that Manuel's best player left and went to Central. Lee,
Mhm. Yeah.
Brandon Lee, I think his name is. So, what was your mindset saying? Man, look at these players; they're all going over to Central.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the coaches in the conference could not have been happy.
No, no. There was a joke going around. It's like, well, Manuel should get the trophy one day, and Richwood should get it 2 days, and Central should get it the other two. But no, uh, uh, that's just the nature of the beast now, I guess, lack of a better term. When you're successful, kids, they grow up wanting, or they're influenced, and they want to be part of your program. And nowadays, parents, unlike our old days, uh, parents have a quick trigger. You're not doing my son right.
Hmm.
And so that was part I didn't like dealing with. I really didn't. Like I said, I always felt that whoever walked through my door or our door, hey, we're going to play the kids that come through our door. And I think
Right.
most coaches were like that. And sometimes, all of a sudden you got a Christmas gift you never thought you were going to get. All of a sudden, so and so is coming to Richwoods, and so and so is going to Manual. When we lost Tony Gully, that hurt us because Tony, we really cared about Tony. But Tony was with Stevie Turner and John Little, and Jeff was going to start, and so we had three guys at the off guard, and somebody wasn't going to start. It was just
Right.
the way it was, and but that hurt because Tony could have helped us because he could stroke it. He really could put the ball in the basket. I don't know if I answered your question, but no, I didn't care too much for that. You could probably tell I'm old school. I didn't really care for the one and done. What's going through college now, but that's just
Right.
it's there. And there's not much you can do about it. But that is something. One of the few things about high school basketball that I don't care for.
I understand. And, I have a big basketball camp outside of Peoria and Dunlap. And I have a lot of the blue chippers that come to my camp, and I'll ask them where they're going to high school. And they tell me I'm keeping my options open. That's what they tell me. So, in essence, the days of going to the school closest to your house is something of the past. If you went to Sterling grade school, you were going to go to Central. If you
Mhm.
went to Laux, you were going to go to Central. If you went to Tree Wind, you were going to go to Manual. And if you went to Keller, you were going to go to Richwoods. So those days are over. They
Oh,
kind of pick and choose where they're going to go. For the record, I did the same thing that Sean did. I transferred from Richwoods to Central back in 1980, but no one gave a damn when I did it. But nevertheless, that is today. And I'm old school like you, and these kids transfer everywhere now.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes the grass is greener, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not.
Hey, can we touch on the topic of high school basketball in terms of how it is now?
Coach,
We still got a few
this
minutes.
is your show. We can talk
Okay.
about whatever you want to talk about. And then I got some questions for you. There's some people that are watching that
Okay.
have some questions for you. So go
Well,
right ahead.
Real quick on my thoughts on high school basketball. Um, I don't. I I I think the coaches have to work harder.
Okay.
I just don't feel. I just don't see, and I don't necessarily have firsthand knowledge. But I think a lot of coaches think they work hard, but I don't think uh, they have that passion that some former coaches have had. So, I'm not trying to take shots at anybody. I'm really not. But uh, you got to be all in. There is no in between. You have to be all in, and I just think they gotta roll up their sleeves and they just got to get after it. And they got to. I like them see them get more passion for the game. I don't know if I came across the way I wanted to, but it just feels like. Of course, it's not the same, and I like to see it come back. I really would.
Yeah. Well, I think for coaches, it's much more difficult coaching today than back in the day during your era, my era, because of the fact the parents have access to the coaches in a way that it was not like that in the past. With cell phones, with an email. Back in the day, the only way you could really reach a coach was to call him on his office phone, which they never answer. So coaches, it's almost like they're taking a test and the teacher is standing over the top of them at all times.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
it's very
Yeah,
difficult for
yeah. It's
coaches.
I would never want that. I would never want a parent to text me. I just maybe that's why I'm not doing it anymore. I don't know. So
The text messages sent you into retirement.
it might have. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't answer one. I don't know. But yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
real
I'm
quick,
sorry. Go ahead. Any questions?
yeah, well, you got a shot. Bobby Woods wanted to say hello to you.
Hey, Bobby,
And
how you doing, man? I remember those days back in Manual. Let's go back, please. Let's go back. I miss my teammate.
and also Steve Roach said hello, Bobby.
Oh, good man. He loves his high school basketball, loves his sports. Tell him I said hello.
Alex Elger
Oh,
called you. He called you the GOAT, greatest.
he must be a real goat, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fergie
Alex, I wish I would have had an opportunity to coach him. Real quick, I retired right before he got to high school, but he would have been my type of player because he could be nasty. He'd elbows first. If there was a loose ball, Alex was going to get it. So yeah, I would have enjoyed coaching him.
Great shout out for Alex. Okay. Fergie Jenkins, great person and great coach. That's what he had to say.
Oh, Fergie, thank you, Fergie. Good man. Good man.
Eric Jackson, who played at Richwoods, said Bobby D and Tim Doolin are a backcourt Peoria sleep song.
Yeah, back in the day, Timmy Doolin and I, we was two white boys playing basketball and all the South Side playgrounds. So we got a little reputation. We could hold our own. We wasn't going to necessarily rule the course, but we could definitely hold our own.
That's cool. Gregory Doyle, he said he loves Coach Darling.
Thank you.
Yep. Matthew Dean Desjardins, he said Bobby D, the legend. Ron Scales, good to hear and see you, Bobby. Now, Mark Gannon, who you played against over in East Peoria, he wants to know how you felt when you played against Roger Fegley.
Wow, that's a good question. Well, Roger didn't take off till he was in college. Really, Roger was he was. Don't get me wrong, Roger was a good high school player, but Bobby Humbles had more props than he did in high school. Roger was tough. I never guarded him. He was too big for me to guard, but he could shoot it. But when you saw Roger in high school, you never thought it was going to be the Roger you saw at Bradley. He grew like 5 inches and become just a phenomenal scorer. Uh, but they beat us, so I got to say that much. So, but he definitely took off when he got to Bradley, I thought.
All right, Donald Jackson, how was it replacing a legend like Wayne Hamilton?
Well, that was difficult because a number of things. Wayne Wayne and I have two entirely different styles. I'm more of a yeller and screamer, and I don't think Wayne was. I'd never been at one of his practices, but I'm kind of correct the air right away, hands on. I think, and I think Wayne was more of he didn't always feel like he was getting in the way of his players, and he did a great job. But it was a little bit of culture shock for the kids when I walked in because it was just going to be a different mindset, and it was difficult because Wayne was very successful at Richwoods, and I knew I had big shoes to fill, and
Mhm.
hopefully for those 7 or 8 years, the Richwoods family felt I did a nice job.
Awesome. Okay. Your last game, uh, Matthew Desjardins, he said he was in the locker room for your last game. Any thoughts of it?
Yeah. I- if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have retired. Um, because when I talked to the team, um, I did not think I didn't think it was going to have the impact that it did on them. And I don't want to say that I made a wrong decision, but it was a decision. If I didn't know they enjoyed playing for me as much as they did, and it was tough. But the other thing was Mike Ellis was ready as a head coach. He was ready to have his opportunity, and I had made the decision before the season started that I was going to step down, and so that was a difficult when you walk away from something you've been doing for 20 25 years. um, that's not a something that you take lightly, and but I felt it was time for me to do something else.
Okay. Nick Shepard, since COVID, where is basketball headed? Also, what about the evolution of players being paid? Also, the education of and business of branding.
Is he in terms of high school, or I assume, or college, or?
Well, they ain't gonna pay him in high school, so he got to be talking about
Yeah,
college.
I'm not against it. If they can sell someone's shirt, and why shouldn't that player be compensated because the kid is buying the shirt because of that individual? Uh, should it be uh, a phenomenal amount? No, but on the other hand, I don't know. I haven't thought about it long enough or hard enough to hear the pros and cons to say uh, it should be set. But for example, let's say Illinois, and let's say the big kid, and I'm not sure that the extra money shouldn't go towards the entire basketball program, the individuals, not just the star, but the whole team.
Right.
So I'm not against it. I don't see anything wrong with it. I really don't personally. You know, this
Okay.
argument that, well, they're getting a free education. Yeah. And the university's making a shitload of money, excuse my language, but
It's
and
okay.
the university's making a shitload of money. So, you know, hey, why shouldn't a kid get some of it? It's my
Yeah, it's
opinion.
not free.
No.
Yeah, it's not a free education. You're working. And Jeffrey Richard, he said he wants you to speak about open gym, how the older guys came back and competed against players and taught them how to fight and become winners.
Yeah, well, let me say this about Jeff Richard. You know, I love all my players, but I love Jeff Richard. I mean, I love that kid. I mean, you talk about a coach on the floor. I love Jeff Richard. A lot of our success was because of him and his teammates. And I love that man. So anyway, about open gyms, yeah, I just learned that from Coach Van, and I learned it from Coach Bishop. You know, once we got Richwoods, you know, I was lucky enough that a lot of the former players from Manual, Central, and Richwoods, they would come to our open gyms, and Jeff would have to go against a stud, and Marcus and those guys, they'd have to guard guys. So they were always playing individuals that were better than them, and they, you know, they just it made them better, and so that really helped. An open gym has lost its I don't want to say purpose, but back when we had open gym back in the day, that's when you got better. You had open gym Monday through
Right.
Thursday. You went every day and you played every day. And it was just a situation where you didn't have to ask the kids to come. I mean, you didn't have to beg them to be there. They were there. And they just got better at open gym. I always felt that Coach Van was ahead of his time. Back when I was in high school, we had open gym 5 days a week,
Yeah.
and we just got better because we played all the time. And other coaches didn't like that, you know, well, they're monopolizing players. But hey, you know, now other programs are doing that. Football's doing that. Other programs are doing that. And so in regards to Jeff, hopefully Jeff, you know, Jeff knows that open gyms is you have some of the best games in open gym. If you can stay
Yeah.
on that winning side, you had props that night because you were on the
Right.
winning side. You never have to go to the losing side. So yeah, it's very important.
Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure to have you on, and I thought this was special to hear your story and the great teams that you coached and coaches that you work with and played under. Much props to you, man. Much props to you.
Well, thank you. You know, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you having me on. You know, actually, this is the first one I've seen, and of course, I'm involved with it. But I just want to thank you for what you're doing and what you're doing for the Peoria area. It's really nice that you're doing this, and you've told me I could get on YouTube and see some of the former ones, and that would be nice to do. So, hats off to you too, because you've
Thank
done a
you,
great job with this, and hopefully you'll continue to do this, and I look forward to seeing more of them. So thank you so much.
man. You welcome so much, Coach, and I'll see you in Peoria at some point in the next couple of weeks. And again, thank you so much. And that's a wrap, everybody. That's Bobby Darlin. That's Bobby Darlin right there. Big props, big ups to Bobby. And thank you all for watching this evening. And we're going to do some more shows. I need some suggestions. So please let me know who you would like to see come on. And I'll try my best to get them to come on. Sean Livingston, you've been called out, brother.
Yeah.
So you
Come on,
retired. So
Sean.
I know you got a little bit of time. So hopefully Sean would like to come on and greet the audience. This is wonderful. So everyone have a good night and get at me. Let me know who you'd like to come on the show. I'll be happy to try to get them on. Peace, y'all, and love.
Thank you. See
Take
ya.
care. All right, Bobby.